What is going on, guys? This is Earpugs, and in this video I'm going to be going over what makes an arena comp powerful. I get a lot of questions like, should me and my friend play XYZ comp, is it strong, etc. So rather than just saying, oh that comp is good, play that comp is bad, etc., I will be explaining what makes a comp strong in this video. There are many different factors that make a team composition good or bad for arena, however I'm going to be simplifying everything down to 4 things. With number 1 being pressure, number 2 being synergy, number 3 crowd control, and number 4 survivability. A very strong comp will have all 4 of these things, however you don't necessarily need all 4 to make something work. Starting off with pressure, this is simply applying damage to a target, potentially creating a kill window. Many comps create pressure in different ways. For example, Turbo Cleave creates pressure by purging off all of the buffs on the kill target while doing a ton of damage in tandem with Mortal Strike and of course wind shearing the healer. Since all 3 of those things generate so much pressure, they rarely need CC to actually land a kill. There are also teams that rely more heavily on CC than damage to land a kill. These are often spell cleaves like Mage Lock Shaman. Since this team has so much crowd control, it is very common that you will see a spell cleave controlling the entire enemy team while looking for a good target to hit that is out of position. While both of these teams have very different playstyles, they both end up generating the same result, which is a lot of pressure on the kill target and a chance to land a kill. If a team can't generate any pressure, then it's very unlikely that they're going to be landing a kill, therefore making it a bad team composition. There are also multiple different ways that damage is distributed depending on what teammates you have. This is important to be aware of for many reasons. Let's say that you are planning to play a Retribution Paladin. This spec has a large amount of utility for their team, on top of some decent sustained damage and a very high amount of burst, while also not having a ton of CC. This makes them pair well with any class who also shares a high amount of burst, and would do even better if that class also offered some CC, making Marksmanship Hunter a great choice for them. On top of the Hunter having a ton of burst and a ton of CC, they also have a 50% healing reduction with their aim shot, making them pair even better. On the other hand, if we took a Retribution Paladin and partnered them with an Affliction Warlock, that combo wouldn't have as great synergy as the Hunter, seeing as the Affliction Warlock's playstyle revolves around rotting the enemy team to death while not having very much burst to land a kill. The Warlock of course does offer some crowd control, so you could make this work if you wanted to, however it wouldn't be a super strong pairing since the classes don't synergize together. Speaking of synergy, while your teammates do need synergy to be effective, this is referring to the way that classes synergize and distribute damage. A classic example of great synergy is Rogue Mage. Both of these classes have extremely high targeted burst damage on top of having a ton of crowd control that doesn't DR with each other. This allows them to almost infinitely reset and burst targets in a stunlock over and over and over until they finally land a kill. Synergy is an extremely important factor when creating a team composition. Another very important factor to synergy is diminishing returns, or DRs. If you have 2 classes that share a lot of DRs with each other, it can pose a big problem. For example, a Disciplined Priest's main form of CC is their Psychic Stream. If paired with a Warlock whose main form of CC is also Fear, it reduces the value of that priest having that CC. Whereas if you paired that priest with a Feral Druid, you would add Cyclone, Bash, and Entangling Roots, all which do not DR with the priest CC. This brings us to number 3, which is crowd control. CC is an invaluable tool for both playing offensively and defensively. Some comps have minimal amounts of CC, and some comps have tons of it. An important thing to keep in mind is that crowd control only matters when you are applying pressure by dealing damage. For example, let's say you have a bunch of CC and you use all of it on the enemy team while dealing no damage. You are actually putting yourself behind, seeing as there's no damage going out, and you are now putting them on DR faster, giving you 0 pressure, completely making your CC useless. So it is always important to partner your CC with damage. Certain comps rely exclusively on CC to land kills, like MLS, LSP, RMP, etc., whereas other comps rely on almost no crowd control to land kills, like TSG, Turbo Cleave, Beast Cleave, etc. Both of these playstyles are very strong when used correctly, however, utilizing even the smallest amount of CC at the right time is guaranteed to win you a game, even for a melee cleave. The final thing to consider when making a composition is survivability. This is a very obvious factor, however, this doesn't just mean lots of heals. Crowd control also offers a ton of survivability, seeing as if the enemy DPS can't deal any damage, then they aren't going to kill anything. On top of that, having a DPS that can dispel magic like a Ret Paladin, for example, gives your team a lot more survivability, seeing as they can now dispel their healer out of CCs. How much utility and crowd control a team has will affect how offensively or defensively they can effectively play. Let's take a look at a melee cleave like TSG, for example. This comp has some defensives, and yes, the Holy Paladin has a lot of healing. However, the only way that this team can actually generate any pressure is by running a target down and beating it to death. If they aren't connected to a target and they are forced to go defensive, they effectively have almost zero pressure, and in many scenarios, once a melee cleave is forced to go defensive and hide on a pillar, it is very hard for them to recover, seeing as they are just going to get picked apart by the other team, since they don't have any threat of landing a kill by line of sighting on a pillar. On the other hand, let's look at a comp like MLD or Magelock Druid. This comp technically has an unlimited CC chain with Fear, Polymorph, Cyclone, and Roots. Since they have these abilities ready at any time, they are able to utilize them whether they need to play defensively or offensively. This gives them a lot more versatility than a melee cleave would have, seeing as they're going to be able to recover from a lot of scenarios where they usually would die by simply removing the enemy team off of them until they recover and then get back on the offensive. These types of comps are of course very hard to play, seeing as all three players need to be playing very fast and abusing the trinkets of the enemy team in order to make this comp work. Whenever you are considering or asking yourself, would this team composition work, it is very important to consider these 4 things. You could even take them and apply these 4 things to any comp in the game, and if they have all 4 things, then it's very likely that that comp could definitely do well. Just because a team doesn't have all 4 doesn't necessarily mean that it's not viable, it just means that you're going to have to play around your strengths and not your weaknesses. Let's say you have a team that has low survivability but very high damage, for example something like Feral Rogue. You're both very squishy and you both have a ton of damage, however, if you're forced to go defensive, it is very hard to come back from that. In order to counteract that, it would be very important that you get the opener that you want, giving you that pressure you need right off the bat, immediately giving you a chance to land a kill. Liking the video helps me out immensely. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon or joining as a member on YouTube. Once Wrath of the Lich King is out, I will be creating a ton of different comp guides, as well as beginner guides for Arena, and even add-ons and macros, so definitely keep your eyes peeled once Wrath actually comes out, because I will be making a ton of content. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.